Hi guys, tonight's story. Why a day in ancient Egypt would be your last. And that's just the beginning. Welcome to ancient Egypt. Hope you like sand. So, you're in ancient Egypt now. Don't ask how, just go with it. Maybe you fell asleep next to a dusty museum display and woke up here. Or maybe it was one of those cursed amulets, you know the kind. Either way, here you are. And the first thing you'll notice is it's hot. Like really hot. Not I forgot sunscreen hot. Not the AC's broken hot. No, this is your sandals are melting into the ground hot. And dry, your lips are dry. Your nose is dry. Your eyeballs feel like they've been sandblasted. And speaking of sand, there's a lot of it. Sand in your shoes. Sand in your food. Sand in your clothes. Sand in places. Sand has no right to be. Welcome to ancient Egypt. This place is old. Like, really old. We're talking 3,000 plus years of dynasties, temples, wars, floods, gods, plagues, and so much bureaucracy. By the time Cleopatra came along, the pyramids were already ancient. That's how old this place is. Your brain can't even hold that much time. But let's zoom in a bit. You're not living in a pyramid. You're not a pharaoh. Sorry, you're not even a scribe or a merchant. You're just you. And you've woken up in one of the villages that the Nile, like Freckles' little sun-baked clusters of mud brick homes and sleepy goats. The Nile is the reason this civilization exists. Without it, Egypt is just a giant sandbox with dreams. But the Nile floods every year, bringing silt, water, and life. Everything here orbits that river. If you're lucky, you live close to it. If you're not, your diet is mostly prayers. And let's talk about your morning so far. You're up before the sun. Because in ancient Egypt, you don't wake up, you get woken by roosters, by your neighbor's donkey, by the heat sneaking under the reed mat where you sleep. You stretch your limbs, soar from the ground, and try to remember where the bathroom is. Spoiler, there isn't one, just a pot, maybe a pit. Sanitation isn't exactly a top 5 priority around here. You step outside. Immediately, a swarm of flies welcomes you like an over-enthusiastic tour group, buzzing in your ears, dancing on your face. You wave them off and pretend it's charming. You breathe in and you're greeted by the scent of wood smoke, river mud, sun-baked dung, and people who haven't bathed in a while, including you. Welcome to your new morning routine. But don't just stand there like a confused time traveler. You've got work to do. Everyone in ancient Egypt works. The farmers, the fishermen, the women grinding grain all day, the kids chasing birds from the fields with slingshots. Even the cats have jobs. You'd been assigned to, let's say, hauling baskets of mud for construction. Congratulations. A man shouts in a dialect you don't understand and shoves a wicker basket in your arms. It's full of something wet and heavy, possibly river sludge. Possibly something worse. You smile nervously. He does not smile back. Time to get moving. Let's be honest, you're not used to this. Your muscles are already aching. Your hands are soft. You've had more lattes than push-ups in your life. But in this world, there are no weekends, no PTO, no naps unless you sneak one and risk getting yelled at by someone wearing nothing but a linen kilt and authority. You trudge through the dust, sweat soaking through your linen shirt. Or what was your shirt? It's now basically a towel. You pass people who barely glance at you. They're busy. They've got crops to tend, bricks to bake, gods to appease. Did we mention the gods? Ancient Egypt is full of them. Gods for everything. Sun gods, sky gods, river gods, frog gods. You name it, there's probably a shrine to it. The people believe the gods keep the balance mat. It's like cosmic order. Break that order. Floods, famine, boils, bad vibes. So yes, people are a little twitchy about upsetting the divine. You'll see offerings tucked in corners, bread, beer, incense. Don't eat them, even if you're hungry. That's not for you. Midday. The sun is a bully now. No clouds, no breeze. Just endless blue sky, and the occasional vulture drifting lazily overhead. You find a patch of shade, which is more valuable than gold, and collapse against a wall. A goat stares at you, unimpressed. It walks away. Even the goat knows you're not built for this. You sip warm water from a clay jug. It tastes like river, not river water, just river. Like wet rocks and distant fish, but it's all you've got. And you're grateful. Kind of as the day drags on. You wonder how anyone survived here. But they did. 4 centuries, through famines and floods, invasions and plagues. They built monuments that still stand today. They mummified their dead with more care than most people give to the living. They wrote hymns, laws, love poems, and shopping lists all on papyrus. And you can't even find a toilet. Dress for the job you don't want. You've survived one whole day in ancient Egypt. Barely, your back hurts. Your eyes are crusty. There's a beetle in your bedroll. But look at you, still breathing, still sunburned, still incredibly underdressed. That's the first thing you realize as you step outside. Your shirt, well, it was a shirt, is now permanently stained with Nile water, sweat, and possibly goat drool. You need new clothes, something breathable, something locally acceptable, something ancient Egyptian. And boy, do they have a look. Let's start with the basics. Linen. Everything is linen. Light, airy, off-white, and hand-woven from flax. Why linen? Because it's the only fabric that makes any kind of sense in 105 degrees Fahrenheit heat. Wool, cotton, not yet, polyester. That's for the future, and it melts. If you're a man, you're expected to wear a kilt. Not like a Scottish tartan, more like a stiff linen apron tied around your waist. No shirt, just chest. Ancient Egyptian fashion was very pro-ventilation. If you're important, maybe you get a pleated version. If you're not, you get whatever the village weaver could throw together before the sun came up. If you're a woman, it's usually a long, tube-like dress with straps over the shoulders, tight-fitting, linen again. Some versions are see-through. It's not a scandal, it's just the heat. Also, underwear, not a thing, and shoes, optional. Mostly, it's barefoot all day. If you're lucky or wealthy, you might have sandals made of papyrus or leather. If you're not, your feet are just very dusty. You try to blend in. You pick up a linen kilt someone left on a basket. Is it clean? Unknown. Is it functional? Mostly. You wrap it around your waist and try to copy how the locals do it. After a few minutes of fumbling and one wardrobe malfunction, you get it to stay. Then you notice everyone else looks better than you. Some guys have starched, pressed kilts with crisp pleats. Their heads are shaved. Their skin glistens with scented oil. Even the workers hauling bricks somehow look fresher than you do. You, meanwhile, resemble a sweaty potato wrapped in a curtain. Hair is also a big deal here. Most Egyptians, men, women, even kids, shave their heads. It's cleaner, cooler, and cuts down on lice. Wigs are a thing, too, fancy ones. If you're wealthy, you might have a whole collection of elaborate braided wigs. Curly, straight, long, short, your choice. If you're a priest, your head is so smooth it probably squeaks. You run your hand through your own sweaty 21st century hair. A kid points at it and laughs. An old man mutters something and offers you a flint razor. You politely decline. Now let's talk eyeliner. Yes, eyeliner. Everyone's wearing it, men, women, toddlers. Thick black lines around the eyes, pulled out dramatically toward the temples. It's not just for looks, though it does look cool. It's practical. The stuff called kohl helps reduce glare from the sun and keeps flies away. It also allegedly wards off evil spirits. Multitasking makeup. You find some by a mirror made of polished bronze. You lean in to try it. Your first attempt leaves you looking like a raccoon that lost a fight. But it burns a little, so that probably means it's working. Jewelry. Oh, they love their accessories. Necklaces, bangles, anklets, beaded collars, scarabs, and amulets. Everyone wears something. Even the poor might have a faience bead or a carved stone charm. If you're rich. Gold. Lots of gold. Big pieces. Clanky. Heavy and shaped like birds, eyes, cobras, or gods. Jewelry isn't just decoration, it's spiritual armor. Protection in life and in death. You slip on a necklace left on a bench. It's made of colored stones and shaped like a little beetle. You're not sure if it's magical or just fashion, but hey, it ties the outfit together. Now, smell. The average person bathes semi-regularly, mostly by pouring cool water over themselves in the courtyard. Soap is kind of a new concept, but natron, a salty mineral mix, helps. There are also scented oils and perfumes: lotus, myrrh, cinnamon, frankincense. People literally wear cones of scented fat on their heads that slowly melt throughout the day. You're not kidding. Imagine a little pyramid of perfumed wax, just ... melting down your scalp. You attempt a bath. It's less spa day and more awkward splash fight with a bucket, but afterward, you find a jug of oil and cautiously dab some on your neck. Smells like tree bark and regret. But better than before. By now, you're starting to feel Egyptian. You've got the linen, the kohl, the accessories, the slight heat rash. A few locals nod at you that you're not quite hopeless way. Progress. Then you spot someone wearing makeup, like actual full face paint, red ochre cheeks, deep green eyeshadow. Turns out, cosmetics aren't just for highborn ladies. Even some priests and officials wear it. Appearance equals power. You give it a try. The green eyeshadow makes you look mildly unwell. The red blush makes you look sunburned and embarrassed. You stop after that. But dressing properly isn't just about the look. It's about fitting in. Blending into a culture that's built around ritual, appearance, and cosmic order. Matt, remember. Harmony, balance, even your clothing should reflect it. Dirty, wrinkled, mismatched. That's not just bad taste, it's bad energy. So you do your best. You straighten your kilt. Reapply your uneven eyeliner. Brush some lint off your fake necklace. And for a moment, just a moment, you almost feel like you belong here. Until you trip over a goat and fall directly into a basket of onions. Fashion is pain. Your daily grind, literally. Grain grinding. So you've got the linen. You've survived the sun. You've applied the eyeliner. Incorrectly, but it's the effort that counts. Now it's time to actually live like an ancient Egyptian, which means, work. Because life here isn't just praying to bird-headed gods and drinking date wine under palm trees. It's mostly labor, relentless, dusty, repetitive labor. You want to eat, you work. You want shelter, you work. You want to avoid being yelled at by a sweaty man with a stick. Work. And today, you've been assigned the sacred, thankless task of grinding. Grain. Welcome to the heart of the economy and the worst arm workout of your life. Let's set the scene. You're in a sun-baked courtyard, surrounded by flat rooftops and palm trees that refuse to provide shade. There are a few women already hunched over low stone slabs, rhythmically rocking grindstones back and forth. They've been doing this since dawn. Their expressions are blank, focused, resigned. You join the line. In front of you with a basket full of wheat. Ancient Egypt's go-to grain. It's coarse, it's gritty, it's full of sand and tiny rocks because, of course, it is. Your job is to turn this into flour, using a saddle quern, a big flat stone, and a smaller one. You move back and forth, like you're sawing an invisible loaf of bread. Sounds simple, right? It's not. You kneel down, adjust your linen, pick up the grindstone. 5 minutes in. Your back hurts. 10 minutes in. Your arms hurt. 20 minutes in. You've ground maybe a spoonful of something that looks like beige dust and tastes like regret. Meanwhile, the woman next to you has already filled half a bowl and is not even sweating. She side-eyes your technique. You feel judged, rightfully so. Grinding grain was often a job done by women, especially in lower-class households. It's not glamorous, but it's essential. Bread is a staple here. Everyone eats it, every day, multiple times. And every loaf starts with someone, somewhere, on their knees, slowly turning hard kernels into powder. It's meditative in a my joints or disintegrating kind of way. But here's the kicker. This isn't clean flour. This is gritty flour. The grinding stones chip tiny flakes of quartz into the mix, and you eat that. All of it, which means ... Ancient Egyptian dental care. Not great. Everyone's teeth were ground down to nubs. Even mummies have been found with worn molars, infected gums, abscesses, and generally please don't show this in HD smiles, and don't expect toothbrushes. You might chew on a stick if you're fancy. Maybe rinse with wire if you're really fancy, but mostly you just live with it and occasionally cry into your onion beer. Let's say you finally fill your basket. You hand it off to the baker, who mixes it with water, yeast, and sometimes sand accidentally or otherwise. The dough is slapped onto the walls of a hot oven, shaped like a beehive, and out comes your daily bread. It's not soft. It's not fluffy. It's not even fully cooked sometimes. But it's food. It fills the belly. It's kind of chewy, kind of crunchy, kind of ... rock dash adjacent. You take a bite and chip a tooth. Welcome to ancient Egyptian cuisine. But grinding isn't your only job. Oh no, once you're done, you're expected to carry water from the Nile, stir beer mash, maybe chase geese out of the garden or help patch the roof with mud and straw. Everything is manual. Everything is effort. Everything makes your muscles scream. Even bathing is labor. You have to hold water, heat it, pour it, scrub yourself with a palm fiber brush, then repeat for the next family member. And you wonder why everyone just smells like garlic and sunshine. And then there's child labor. Kids here don't get childhood the way you know it. Sure, they play when they're not helping in the fields or grinding grain or hauling water jugs bigger than their heads. At age 5, you might already be herding goats. At age 8, you're weaving baskets. By 12, you're either married or thinking about it. Your modern brain says, that's too young. Ancient Egypt says, time is a flat disk of sun. Get moving. The irony. For all the hard work, most people lived in poverty. Food was uneven. Shelter was basic. Wages were often paid in bread, beer, and onions. If you were lucky, maybe you got fish or figs. If you were really lucky, a bit of meat. But mostly it was work, eat, sleep, repeat. And beer. So much beer. Thick, cloudy, porridge-like beer. Made from half-baked bread and sweet dates, fermented, in jugs and drunk at all times of day. Even kids drank it. Water was risky, but beer was the breakfast of champions. You take a sip, and it coats your tongue like warm soup. It's fine. It tastes vaguely of raisins, mud, and childhood trauma. By late afternoon, you've ground another half basket of grain. Your arms feel like they've been cursed by 3 different gods. Your knees hate you. Your spine has filed a complaint. But you've done it. You helped make food. You look down at your hands, dusty, scraped, sore. And in a weird way, it feels honest. This is the kind of work that built pyramids, that fed empires, that kept the gods happy and the pharaohs fed. And now you're part of it. Eat like an Egyptian. If you like beer, porridge, closing parenthesis. So ... You've hauled mud. You've ground grain. You've coal-lined your eyes and made peace with sand in your food, your shoes, and your soul. Now it's time to talk about what really matters. Food, and not feast food. Not past the roasted ox and honey-glazed duck food. We're talking daily, regular, peasant-tier food. The kind of stuff you eat 3 times a day until your stomach gives up and your jaw develops superpowers. Welcome to the ancient Egyptian menu. Basic, gritty, and extremely ... beige. Let's start with the holy trinity of the Egyptian diet. Bread, beer, and onions. That's it. That's the core. That's the food pyramid, ironically shaped like an actual pyramid. Bread was life. You ate it every day. You made it from emmer or barley flour, usually with wild yeast. It came in all shapes: flat, round, pointy, lumpy, sometimes stuffed with dates, sometimes with nothing, and thanks to sand in the flour, it doubled as dental sandpaper. Beer wasn't just for fun. It was for hydration, calories, and spiritual wellness. This wasn't bubbly pub beer. It was thick, yeasty, sweet, and came with bits of soggy bread floating in it. More like liquid cereal than something you chug at a party. Even kids drank it. Onions were practically currency. Egyptians loved onions, ate them raw, cooked, boiled, pickled, worshipped them, even. A worker's wage might literally include a bunch of onions. The ancient version of a direct deposit. Add garlic, leeks, and radishes to the mix, and your breath could knock over a small cow. You wake up hungry and head toward the communal oven area. There's smoke curling from clay domes. A few women are shaping dough, slapping it against the oven walls, then peeling it off. Once it's crispish, you get a small, flat piece. It's hot, gritty, and mildly burnt on one side. Perfect. You eat it with some raw onion. You try not to cry. Not from emotion, just the sheer strength of the onion. It's a nasal cleansing experience. Breakfast achieved. Let's say it's a good day, a festive day. Maybe the Nile just flooded properly, or a neighbor had a baby, or someone found a fish with both eyes still attached. You might get extras, like what? Lentils or chickpeas, boiled to mushy perfection. Dates. If someone's palm tree has been generous. Figs, sweet and sticky, the ancient equivalent of a candy bar. Cucumbers or lettuce, for those brief, magical moments when it wasn't 900 degrees outside. And sometimes fish, usually dried, usually salty, usually resembling a leather sandal. But it counts. But don't get too excited, because some days you eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Stale bread, warm beer, half a radish, and maybe a beetle for spice. If it crawled in by accident, you ask, "Where's the meat?" Ancient Egypt replies, "What meat? For regular folks, meat was rare. Chickens hadn't even shown up yet, they're a later import. So if you ate meat, it was probably a duck or goose. If you caught one, a fish. If you wrestled it from the Nile, or a piece of lamb or beef, but only if someone died, or you bribed a butcher, or it was a festival day and the gods were in a good mood. Even then, it was probably tough, full of bones, and immediately shared with 10 people. And dairy or sort of dock cows were sacred-ish. Milk existed, but was limited. More common was goat milk or sheep cheese, but both went sour fast. Ancient refrigeration involved clay pots buried in sand. Spoiler, it wasn't great. You do get offered a small clay bowl of sour goat cheese. It's white, it's soft, it smells defensive. You take a bite. It's aggressively tangy, but technically food. You nod politely and hide the rest under a basket. If you're elite, though, whole different story. The wealthy ate lavishly. Honey-roasted meats, pomegranates, pastries, wine from fancy amphors. Some even had personal chefs and food tasters. They dined reclining, with servants fanning them while harpists played nearby. You eat crouched on a stool, while a cat steals your bread and a fly lands in your beer. But it's all part of the vibe. Let's talk table manners. There are no forks, no plates, just hands and maybe a chunk of pottery to scoop something with, napkins. Try a piece of old linen, or the back of your arm. Also, sharing is everything. One bowl, one jug, one loaf, everyone digs in. Don't be greedy, and never eat with your left hand. It's not the eating hand. You learn this the hard way. Now, let's say you're really hungry. You wander into the market, hoping to score something exotic, maybe honeycomb or maybe wildfowl. You quickly realize two things. You don't have any silver rings, scarabs, or grain to barter with. You don't speak the language. So you point at something wrapped in palm leaves. The vendor squints, then hands it to you. It's a fermented fish cake. It smells like revenge. You take one bite. It tastes ancient. You nod, smile, and walk away very, very slowly. But honestly, food here is fuel. It keeps the workers working, the scribes scribbling, and the temple priests chanting. It might not be glamorous, but it's steady, predictable, strangely comforting. Every meal connects you to the land, to the Nile, to the people who've been doing this exact thing for thousands of years. You break your bread, you sip your thick, warm beer. You wipe your oniony hands on your already filthy kilt. And for a moment, it feels enough. Heat stroke and hippos. Nature is trying to kill you. So you've eaten your bread, you've drunk your beer porridge, you've survived your daily quota of onion-based cuisine. Now it's time to go outside. And by outside, we mean into the vast, sun-bleached danger zone that is ancient Egyptian nature. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also trying to kill you, very politely, very consistently. This place is a postcard of doom. Let's begin with the obvious one, the sun. The ancient Egyptian sun is not your friend. It is not your let's get a little tan sun. It is a giant, glowing deity raw, to be exact. And he's got no chill. You step outside mid-morning, and your skin instantly regrets it. The heat hits you like an open oven. The air is dry and heavy. Your breath feels like it's being filtered through sandpaper. Your linen outfit, so breezy at first, now clings to you like a damp napkin. You find yourself squinting so hard, Your eyebrows develop muscle definition, and there's no sunscreen, no SPF, no coconut-scented salvation, just wide-brimmed hatsif. You're rich and the hope that maybe today the sun forgets you exist. Spoiler, it won't. Then there's the Nile.R, the Nile, the giver of life. The ribbon of green in a world of dust. It floods, it fertilizes, it feeds the crops, but also, it's full of murder. Let's start with crocodiles, big ones. Nile crocodiles can grow over 15 feet long. They glide through the water like scaled submarines. You might be washing your tunic on the riverbank, humming a little tune, when suddenly splash, you're a snack. And they don't just go for fish, they'll eat goats, children, fishermen. You'll left sandal anything that floats, flops, or hesitates. Ancient Egyptians respected crocodiles so much, they literally worshipped one. His name was Sobek, and he was a crocodile god of strength and power. People made offerings to him hoping not to be eaten. Honestly. Fair. Next up. Hippos. You think they're cute, chubby, harmless? You're wrong. Ancient Egyptians feared hippos more than many enemies. These things were massive, territorial, and aggressively unbothered by human presence. You so much as look at a hippo the wrong way, and he will charge you like a tiny grey tank with teeth. They can bite a boat in half, and they often did. Pharaohs even hunted them as a show of manly strength, which is brave, and also incredibly stupid. And don't forget the snakes. Egypt is crawling with them. Mostly small, mostly hiding in your sandals. Some are harmless, others not so much. Ever heard of the Egyptian cobra? Long, fast, hissy, venomous, possibly sacred. If you see one and live, good job. If it bites you, there's a temple for that somewhere. Hope you can crawl there before the dizziness kicks in. Then there's the insect population, which is less deadly and more constant harassment. Flies, everywhere. They follow you, land in your beer, crawl in your eyes, and have zero manners. Mosquitoes, oh yes, and with them, lovely gifts like malaria. Lice, basically roommates at this point. Beetles, in your bed, your bread, your soul. It's no wonder people shave their heads. Hair was a bug magnet. You're scratching right now just thinking about it. Let's not leave out the desert. Wander too far from the Nile, and suddenly it's just nothing. Endless dunes, blinding sun. No shade, no water, no landmarks. Just heat and mirages. Lose your way. That's it, game over. You become a warning story told by wise uncles. Don't go chasing after mirages like that one fool with the coal-smudged face. Yeah, that's you now. And the weather, there's not much of it. But what's there can still mess you up. Sandstorms rolling like angry ghosts. 1 minute it's calm, the next whoosh you're being sandblasted from every direction. Visibility, zero. Breathing, optional. You stagger around like a confused mummy. Eye stinging, mouth full of grit. By the time it passes, you're exfoliated down to your regrets. But maybe the biggest threat of all. Dehydration, you're sweating buckets. The Nile water isn't always drinkable, and even when it is, it might taste like mud, fish, or someone else's sandals. So you drink beer, warm, thick, say fish beer. It helps. Sort of, but you're still dizzy. Your lips are cracked. Your tongue feels like it was left on a roof tile. And no, there's no Gatorade. Just clay pots of lukewarm river juice. You start dreaming of ice, of cold, of little cubes clinking in glasses. Too bad that concept won't exist for another 3,000 years. And if, somehow, none of these things get you, try sleeping outside without a net, because then you're the buffet. The bugs nibble, the lizards crawl, the occasional jackal pokes around. You wrap yourself tighter in your linen sheet, which at this point is more like a bug-scented flag of surrender. You're no longer a person. You're just part of the ecosystem. But you know what? Despite all this, ancient Egyptians lived here for millennia. They figured it out. They watched the sky, learned the river's moods, made peace with the heat. They invented calendars to track floods, built homes that breathed, worshipped animals that could kill them, and somewhere between dodging hippos and swatting flies, they built a civilization that still awes the world. You've barely lasted 5 days. And a goat just tried to eat your sandal, but you're adapting. You walk a little slower now. You keep a sharp eye on the river. You accept the sweat. You swat without even flinching. You still smell like onions, but now you kind of own it. Hieroglyphs are harder than they look. So you've survived the heat. You've dodged crocodiles. You've eaten bread made of rocks and beer made of soup. You're basically a seasoned ancient Egyptian now, except you still can't read anything, because here's the thing about writing in ancient Egypt. It's really, really complicated. You're surrounded by beautiful, strange symbols, birds, eyes, squiggles, tiny seated men, and the occasional loaf of bread. They're carved into temples, scribbled on tombs, painted on papyrus, and absolutely everywhere. They look cool, but do you know what they mean? Absolutely not. Welcome to the world of hieroglyphs. To your sleep-deprived modern eyes, it's like an ancient emoji puzzle, but this wasn't just decorative. This was the written language of power, used to record everything from taxes to prayers to who gave what goat to which god, on what day. And guess what? Not everyone could read or write it. In fact, almost nobody could. Reading and writing in ancient Egypt was a job, a full-time, highly respected, deeply exhausting job. Enter the scribe. These were the intellectual elite, the nerds of the Nile, the guys and very occasionally gals who spent their entire lives learning this baffling system of pictorial scribbles. It took years of training to become one. Your average peasant couldn't even read their own name if it was spelled out in front of them with birds. And don't expect books or bookstores or even a decent pamphlet. If you wanted to learn hieroglyphs, you needed a teacher, a reed brush, a lot of patience, and zero social life. So how do hieroglyphs actually work? Well, it's complicated. Some symbols are sounds, like letters. Some are words, like full ideas in one picture. Some are ideas about ideas, just hanging out to clarify things. Some do all three, depending on their mood. You've got to guess based on context, direction, placement, and whether the falcon is sitting or flying. And the writing, it can go left to right to left, or top to bottom. You can only tell which direction it's going by looking at which way the little birds and people are facing. That's right. You don't read the line of text, you follow the geese. And then there's the tools of the trade. You'd think papyrus would be the easy part. Note. Papyrus was expensive and hard to make. You had to harvest the plant, soak it, press it, and dry it. It was the ancient world's premium printer paper. So scribes often practiced on limestone flakes or pieces of pottery like the ancient equivalent of scratch paper, except it weighed 5 pounds and sometimes broke in half. For ink, you mixed soot and gum with a little water. For colors, you used ground minerals. Red ink for headings or warnings, black for the regular stuff. You wrote with a reed brush, not a pen, so every stroke required focus, control, and a very steady hand. Also, no erasers. One mistake, you're starting over. Buddy, let's say you're trying to write a letter. Just a nice, Simple note to your cousin about a goat trade. First, you decide how formal it should be. You pick the right form because there were 3 kinds of Egyptian writing: hieroglyphic, the fancy stuff, 4 tombs, temples, and the gods. It's neat, slow, and ceremonial. Hieratic, a cursive form. For administrative tasks, letters, records, and tax complaints. Demotic, the shorthand version, fast, casual, and used by people in a rush. If you write your goat letter in full hieroglyphs, it'll take you all day. So maybe you scribble it in hieratic, but your cousin can't read it because he's just a goat guy, not a reader. Now the goat never gets delivered, and everything falls apart. Also, this entire writing system, it was built to honor the gods and kings, not for your personal diary. That's why scribes were powerful. They were the ones who wrote history. Literally, they recorded pharaohs' deeds, religious texts, harvest counts, and legal rulings. If it was important, a scribe wrote it down. And if a scribe didn't write it, it might as well not have happened. No wonder they were treated with respect. Their hands may have been cramped, but their words lasted forever. Fun fact, if you were a scribe, you didn't have to do physical labor. No hauling bricks, no digging canals, no building pyramids in the sun. You got a seat, a shady spot, a writing kit, and lots of status. Scribes were even buried with their tools because in the afterlife, there would still be paperwork. Want to know the wildest part? We lost the ability to read hieroglyphs for centuries. After the fall of the Egyptian Empire, the language faded away. The meaning of the symbols was forgotten. They became pretty, mysterious, and totally unreadable. It wasn't until 1799, when the Rosetta Stone was found, that scholars began to decipher it again. Thanks to the same text written in Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs, people were finally able to start cracking the code. It was like unlocking a library of ghosts. Suddenly, tombs could speak again, letters could whisper, names, long gone, had voices. Once more. But for you, you're still stuck on the first line of the how to read hieroglyph scroll. You've got ink on your tunic, your reed pen is bent, and the falcon keeps switching directions. You try to draw a cat, but it turns into a weird triangle with legs. A priest glances over your shoulder and sighs loudly. Welcome to scribe school. Still, even if you can't read a single symbol, there's something beautiful about it all. The elegance, the care, the effort it took to preserve thoughts across time. Writing was more than just communication, it was a form of prayer, a way of holding the world still, even as it changed. Sandals, wigs, and eyeliner, ancient Egyptian style. So, your head is still spinning from trying to learn hieroglyphs. You tried to draw a vulture, but it looked more like a sad duck in a hat. That's okay, because today, we're focusing on something a little more your speed. Fashion. Yes, ancient Egyptian style. Now, you might think, wait, weren't they just wrapped in bed sheets? Oh no. No. Ancient Egyptians knew how to serve a look. And you're about to find out that surviving a single day in ancient Egypt also meant surviving the dress code. Step 1. Shave it all off. Let's start at the top. Your head. Hair. Gone. Most people shave their heads to stay cool, keep clean, and avoid lice. Children often had their heads shaved too, except for one decorative lock of hair called a side lock of youth. It's a whole thing. And what if you missed your hair? Simple, wear a wig. Egyptians loved wigs, short wigs, long wigs, curly wigs, braided wigs. If it sat well and didn't melt in the sun, it was in fashion. Wigs were made from human hair, sheep's wool, or plant fibers. The fancier your wig, the wealthier you were. High society ladies even perfumed theirs. So now you've got a freshly shaved head and a borrowed wig. You're already cooler literally and socially. Step 2. Linen. Next up. Clothing. Ancient Egyptian fashion was all about linen, that breezy, light, woven fabric made from flax plants. It's perfect for hot, dry weather, but not very stretchy. So once it's on, it's on. If you're a man, your outfit is likely a simple kilt or loincloth, maybe tied with a sash. If you're important, it's pleated. If you're very important, it's pleated and starched within an inch of its life. If you're a woman, you might be wearing a long linen chic dress with to-shoulder straps, maybe even some beads or fringe if you're going out. And yes, both men and women went topless sometimes, especially in the earlier periods. Modesty wasn't really a thing the way it is now. They dressed for practicality and heat tolerance. So, if your modern sensibilities are feeling a little overexposed to bad, the Nile isn't waiting. Step 3. Jewelry or bust. You know what really pulled an outfit together? Jewelry, lots of it. Bracelets, earrings, anklets, collars, rings, even toe rings. The Egyptians loved their bling. And it wasn't just for decoration, it had meaning. Amulets offered protection. Colors had symbolism. Materials mattered. Gold was divine, lapis lazuli was rare, carnelian, turquoise, faience. Each piece said something about status, faith, or which god you were trying to impress. Even the poor wore imitation versions. Everyone sparkled, even if it was just painted clay pretending to be emerald, and honestly, they pulled it off. Step 4. Eyeliner is for every own. You've got the outfit, you've got the jewels, but if your eyes are naked, you're not done yet. Enter the cold. Ancient Egyptians, men, women, children, even statues wore black eyeliner. Lots of it. Heavy wings, thick lines, dramatic shapes. Cleopatra didn't invent the look, she inherited it. But it wasn't just for fashion. Kohl helped reduce sun glare and repelled insects. It also had antibacterial properties. So yes, their makeup was basically a health tool and a style statement rolled into one. You applied it with a stick, using black galena or green malachite powder. One slip of the hand, and now you look like a raccoon. But that's the price of beauty. Step 5. Scented like a Farah Arno deodorant. No problem. Ancient Egyptians took smell very seriously. They bathed often, sometimes several times a day, scrubbed with natron salt, and slathered themselves in oils and perfumes. Wigs were often scented with wax cones that slowly melted in the heat, releasing sweet aromas throughout the day. Think of it as ancient air freshener, stuck to your head. Popular scents included frankincense, myrrh, cinnamon, and lotus. The wealthier you were, the better you smelled, and if you couldn't afford the good stuff, you probably smelled like goat. Bonus round, sandals and tattoos on your feet. Sandals made from papyrus or leather. Or maybe nothing at all. Barefoot was common. Your average peasant wouldn't wear shoes unless it was necessary. Nobles, priests, and royals rocked some pretty stylish sorless. And if you were important enough, someone else might even carry yours for you. That's real status. And tattoos, yep, mostly found on women. Dots, lines, symbols, sometimes for protection during childbirth, sometimes just for beauty. Ancient ink had its place, but was it comfortable? Not always. That stiff, starched linen. Not cozy. The heavy wigs in 100-degree heat. Not ideal. The jewelry, clinky and occasionally itchy, but style is sacrifice. Even when you live next to a river full of hippos. And don't forget, This wasn't just vanity. Dressing well meant honoring the gods, your station in life, and the afterlife, because even when you died, you had to look good. Your best clothes were packed with you in the tomb. You were buried with jewelry, perfume, and spare wigs. The idea was that you'd step into the next world already dressed for the occasion, which is more than most of us can say. So, how's your ancient makeover going? You're sweating, your eyeliner has melted, your sandals broke, and your linen kilt won't stop falling down, but you do smell amazing, and that necklace really ties it all together. You may not last a day here, but you'll look pretty great while failing. Grain, granaries, and going bad. Ancient Egypt's food storage problems. So, you've dressed the part. Sandals, linen, eyeliner, scented oils check. You look like someone who belongs in a tomb mural. But before you start posing for hieroglyphs, let's talk about something a little less fashionable. Grain. Yep. The boring stuff. Barley, emmer wheat, maybe some flax, brown and beige, and dusty. Because while gold and pyramids get all the spotlight, grain was what really ran ancient Egypt. And unfortunately, you are now responsible for keeping it from going moldy, stolen, or eaten by mice. Congratulations. You've been promoted to assistant granary overseer. Here's why your new job is kind of the worst. Grain equals life. Let's set the scene. Most Egyptians didn't get paid in coins, they got paid in food. Especially grain. That was your paycheck, your dinner, your rent, your backup savings, and your emergency stash all in one. Grain was used to make bread and beer, the two pillars of the Egyptian diet. Yes, even kids drank beer. It was basically liquid cereal with a mild buzz, so if something happened to the grain, famine followed. That's why granaries were heavily guarded, carefully managed, and always a little stressful. No pressure. The granary. Ancient Egypt's warehouse. Picture this. A big, mud brick building with high walls and no windows. Inside, giant, sloped bins, a raised floor to keep out moisture, and people constantly scooping, measuring, and shouting things like, "Mind the rats." Grain had to be dried before storing. To wet, mold, to dry, it turns to powder. To warm, bugs. To cold, no such thing. This is Egypt. Grain was delivered in sacks, poured into bins, then recorded by scribes with meticulous notes. Every bag counted, because guess what? If even a handful goes missing, someone's losing a hand. Enemies of the grain. Let's meet your new worst friends, rats and mice. They came in like tiny thieves, chewing through baskets and sacks, leaving droppings behind like a calling card. Beetles. Grain beetles could chew through even tough husks, laying eggs in your food like it's an Airbnb. Moisture. Rain was rare, but humidity and morning dew could ruin a whole bin. Mold meant sickness. Sickness meant curses, probably thieves. Sometimes the pests walked on two legs. Guards, scribes, workers. Anyone could skim a little off the top, which is why inventory scrolls were practically holy texts. So yes, your life is now counting seeds, swatting beetles, and squinting at suspicious footprints. Scribes. The human spreadsheet spinned every sack of barley. Stood a scribe with a reed, pen, and no patience. These guys were the accountants of the Nile. They tracked every delivery, every withdrawal, every crumb of emmer wheat, to sacks in from Hopu the farmer. One sack to the bakery, a handful dropped by accident, but definitely not stolen. Scribes wrote everything down in cursive hieroglyphs, which basically looked like birds in a hurry. If something didn't match up, they didn't blame the pen, they blamed you. And no, I swear I saw a mouse the size of a cat wasn't a valid excuse. Rotten bread. Bitter beer, bad grain didn't just smell bad, it could make people very sick. Moldy bread. Stomach cramps, fever, maybe hallucinations. Some molds produce toxins that even modern medicine doesn't mess with. Spoiled beer, same deal. And when the beer goes bad in Egypt, it's practically a national emergency. So the granary was about more than storage. It was about life expectancy. And when the grain got low, prices went up, bread got thinner. People started eyeing their neighbor's stockpile with a little too much interest. Taxes in grain. Let's not forget, grain was also how you paid your taxes. Did you think the pharaoh wanted coins? No. He wanted truckloads of emmer and barley to feed his workers, priests, and crocodile temple staff. Every farmer owed a portion of their harvest to the state. If the flood was weak and crops were bad, too bad. You still paid. That meant sometimes you were giving up food your family needed just to avoid the taxman's whip. Sounds fun, right? And then came the floods every year. The Nile flooded. It was the rhythm of life in Egypt. But sometimes it flooded too much. Or not enough. Too much water. And fields drowned. Too little. And crops withered. Either way, the grain yield suffered and the granaries felt it. In bad years, people started rationing. Bread got smaller. Beer got watery. And if the famine got really bad, well, let's just say the gods weren't the only ones demanding sacrifices. The granary job interview. If you wanted to work in a granary, you needed good eyesight, basic math skills, a strong nose for mold, zero fear of bugs, a total lack of ego beckles. No one thanked the grain guy. You only got noticed if you messed up. One beetle infestation. That's on you. A missing jar of barley. Start packing. And yet, without you, the kingdom starved. No pressure. Would you last? Let's be real, you'd lose count. Spill a sack, let some beetles in, misplace a scroll, trip over a rat, eat a moldy biscuit. And that's just Monday. Being in charge of food in the desert wasn't glamorous. It was hot, itchy, dusty, repetitive, and required the precision of a heart surgeon using a soup spoon. But hey, the bread was warm, the beer was cold, and sometimes, on a good day, the rats took the night off. Temples, priests, and the daily to-do list of the gods. So, let's take a break from moldy grain and mice. You've had enough of counting barley and dodging beetles. It's time to elevate yourself. Let's say you've been reassigned. You now serve the gods. Yes, those enormous, animal-headed, falcon-eyed, sometimes Sunday-squaring Egyptian gods. The ones who control everything from flooding rivers to stomach aches. But you're not a god yourself, obviously. You're a temple worker. Priest, maybe. Or a servant. Or a janitor with incense duty. Either way, your job is sacred, exhausting, and weirdly domestic. Temples, the mansions of the gods' Egyptian temples, weren't like your modern church down the road. They were more like palaces. Giant stone complexes full of inner chambers, hidden rooms, gardens, storerooms, kitchens, altars, and columns as tall as giraffes standing on each other's shoulders. And unlike your local place of worship, the public wasn't allowed inside, not past the outer courtyard. Anyway, these temples weren't for worshippers. They were for the gods to live in, which meant someone had to clean them, feed them, dress them, and sing to them every day. Guess who? The god has awoken. Now get to work. The temple day started early. Before the sun even blinked over the desert, you'd creep into the inner sanctuary, not alone, usually in pairs, and after lots of ritual washing and linen wardrobe changes, inside was the statue of the god. Not just a statue, this was believed to be the physical body of the god Dot, so you treated it like royalty. Better, actually, you'd wake up the statue, yes, literally, wash it, anoint it with sacred oils, dress it in fresh linen, offer it breakfast, bread, beer, meat, incense, 5 stars, no pressure. Just imagine if your job was to bathe and clothe an invisible cosmic force every morning without screwing up. Incense, oil, and a whole lot of linen. Temple life smelled amazing. Every ritual involved incense, frankincense, myrrh, and kifi, a magical sounding mix of herbs, honey, and wine that probably smelled like bedtime tea. The gods didn't just want food, they wanted smells. You'd also smear sacred oils on the statue: cinnamon, lotus, cedar. Expensive stuff, imported from across the ancient world. And then there was linen. Fresh, pure, wrinkle-free linen. You didn't just toss a robe on raw and call it a day. No, you folded, you pleated, you layered. Statues were dressed like fashion icons. Think Met Gala, but for a god who never moves. The daily offerings, and who actually ate them after dressing and pampering your divine boss. It was time for offerings. The gods were offered bread, beer, wine, onions, dates, figs, roasted meats. More incense laid out neatly on altars, like a spiritual buffet. But here's the thing, the gods didn't actually eat it. After a few ritual words and some incense burning, the food was considered consumed. So, who got the leftovers? You. Did. Temple staff usually ate pretty well. Leftovers from the god's table weren't bad, plus they were sacred, which probably added flavor. Priestly problems. Buying a priest sounds fancy, but it wasn't exactly cushy. You had to shave your entire body, no hair allowed to unclean. Bathe multiple times a day. Hello. Dry skin, fast from certain foods. Avoid your spouse. During service, memorize long, complicated hymns, and don't even think about sneezing in front of the god statue. That's sacrilege. You were basically part butler, part monk, part performance artist. And if you messed up the ritual, the god could get offended. And you really didn't want to annoy gods like Sekhmet or Sobek. One's a lion-headed war goddess, the other's a crocodile. Scribes and singers and sweeping geistners. Everyone in the temple was a high priest. There were also scribes copying religious texts onto papyrus while trying not to spill ink, musicians singing hymns and shaking sistrums, rattling instruments for summoning divine attention, doorkeepers who made sure no one unclean snuck in, gardeners keeping temple groves tidy and full of lotus flowers, sweepers whose job was to clean without ever disturbing the sacred peace. Even janitorial work was sacred. You might be sweeping sand off holy flagstones with a feather brush, whispering prayers. Divine sanitation. Gods have calendars. 2 temples didn't just operate daily. They also followed the Egyptian religious calendar, packed with monthly festivals, lunar rituals, seasonal rites, New Year purification ceremonies, weird holidays, like Feast of the Valley, or going forth of Bastet. Each festival meant new clothes for the god, special food, parades, and sometimes taking the statue out for a boat ride. Imagine lugging a golden falcon statue on your shoulders through a crowd of sweaty farmers, all shouting praises, while cats follow you around. Good times. Would you last a day as a temple worker? Let's take stock. You'd need the ability to wake up at dawn, everyday shaved armpits, and a perfect linen wardrobe. A very good memory for prayers in Middle Egyptian, the patience to cook meals for someone who doesn't eat them. Absolute silence while carrying trays of onions past 12-foot columns. You'd probably spill oil on the statue, or drop a piece of bread, or trip over your own robes during the new moon ritual. At best, you'd get demoted to incense assistant. At Worst, well, the gods forgive, sometimes, death, burial, and the 72 things you need to do to not get eaten in the afterlife. So, let's say you've died. Sorry, but hey, it happens, especially in ancient Egypt, where one bad sip of Nile water, a poorly aimed chariot wheel, or an unlucky encounter with a hippo could end your very long day. But don't worry. In ancient Egypt, dying wasn't the end. It was just the start of your most bureaucratic journey yet. Because to get into the afterlife, you've got paperwork to file, gods to impress, spells to memorize, and possibly a giant monster to avoid. Let's tuck you into your tomb and walk through it all, step by step. Step 1. Don't die poor sorry. But this matters. A good burial was expensive, and the afterlife, not cheap. If you were rich, you got a stone tomb, a coffin within a coffin within a coffin, a painted book of the dead scroll mummification with spices and resins, a mask that made you look like a very serious golden beat life. You were poor, you might just get a shallow pit, a simple linen wrap, and maybe, if someone liked you, a single pot of beer for the road. So before you died, it helped to be either a scribe, a temple worker, or just unbelievably lucky. Step 2. Mummify your business. Mummification was not quick. It took 70 days, involved natron salt, linen wrapping, and a lot of patience from the embalmers. Here's the general order. Remove the organs except the heart. They believed you'd need that later. Stuff the body with drying agents. Let it sit 4 weeks in salt. Oil it up like a holiday turkey. Wrap every finger and toe separately. Chant a lot while doing it. The brain pulled out through the nose. No anesthesia, no chill, just plop and goodbye. And if you were cheaping out, you might get the quick dry version. Less wrapping, more smell. Step 3. Bury yourself with everything you'll need. Stuff in the afterlife. Like a lot of stuff. Typical grave goods. Bread, beer, combs, amulets, jewelry, sandals, statues, board games. Seriously, Senate. A big hit, and shabby dolls. Tiny little worker figurines who would do chores for you in the afterlife. Sickly. You were buried like you were moving to a new apartment with snacks, shoes, and help. And the rich, they brought gold, perfumes, furniture, even pets. Pharaohs buried themselves with boats. Yes, full-sized boats. They were not packing light. Step 4. Know the spells bore you could enter the field of reeds, Egypt's version of paradise. You had to make it through the underworld called the Duat. It was dark. It was full of weird monsters, and you had to pass multiple tests, gates, and judgment rooms. So, naturally, you brought a cheat sheet, the Book of the Dead. This scroll, sometimes dozens of feet long, was filled with spells, passwords, and magic. Instructions to get past obstacles like snake gods, fire lakes, doors. The task riddles angry baboons holding flaming knives. We're not kidding. If you forgot a line, you might get eaten by a shadow demon. No pressure. Step 5. The big heart test. Eventually, you'd reach the Hall of Truths. Here, you'd face your final judgment. Standing there, Osiris, god of the dead, looking majestic on his throne. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe, writing everything down. Anubis, the jackal-headed embalmer, guiding the scales. And Amit, a terrifying creature that's part lion, hippo, and crocodile whose job is to eat your soul if you mess up. They would weigh your heart against the feather of truth and justice. If your heart was heavier because of sin, lies, or bad vibes, you were done. No paradise, no ghost party, just Amit going chomp. Step 6. Say the negative confessions to prove your heart was pure. You had to recite the 40 negative confessions. That's right. You didn't say what you did do, you listed all the things you didn't do. Examples: I have not stolen, I have not killed, I have not uttered lies. I have not made anyone cry. I have not eavesdropped. I have not slain sacred cattle. Each confession was addressed to a different judge god, with names like he who lives on serpents or she who burns with her eyes. Forget just being a good person. You had to be cosmically spotless and good at public speaking. Step 7. Finally, paradise if you passed all the tests. You'd arrive in the field of reeds. It looked a lot like Egypt, but better. Eternal sunshine crops that grew on their own, clear rivers, fruit trees, your family and pets, waiting with welcome hugs and no taxes. War or sand in your sandals you could relax, sing, eat honey cakes, fish in golden boats, be young forever. It was the eternal retirement you didn't know you needed, but only if you followed every ritual exactly. Would you make it? Let's see. You'd need to afford a long, expensive burial, have your body dried like a raisin, memorize 70 spells, avoid monsters with crocodile faces, list 42 things you definitely didn't do, and balance your soul on a golden scale. Without flinching honestly, you might trip up somewhere between don't kill and don't eavesdrop. It's okay. Amit was hungry anyway, living like a pharaoh without the golden toilets. Closing parenthesis. So you've woken up as pharaoh. Nice. You've got a crown on your head, the Nile in your backyard, and servants brushing sand off your sandals. You are the literal god king of Egypt. Congratulations. Now, prepare to be exhausted, because while being pharaoh sounds like gold-plated fun, in reality, it was kind of like being the CEO of a very sandy, very spiritual megacorporation with daily rituals, divine pressure, and 0 days off. Let's take a tour of your royal to-do list, shall we? First, you're not just king, you're a god. No pressure. Pharaoh wasn't just a political role, it was a divine one. People thought you were the living Horus, son of the sun god. Raw. Your job: maintain mat cosmic balance. That meant preventing floods and famines, keeping the gods happy, crushing rebellions, supervising temple construction, and looking very serene in every carved relief. The harvest failed. It was your fault. If the Nile didn't flood, still your fault. If the moon looked weird, guess who's getting blamed? Even your breathing was said to bless the kingdom. No pressure. None at all. Your outfit is ... heavy. The average pharaoh's look included a ceremonial beard, even for women rulers, a striped Nenes headcloth, beaded collars, golden sandals, and about 15 pounds of jewelry, and sometimes you wore the double crown, symbolizing rule over both Upper and Lower Egypt. It looked regal. It also looked sweaty, and while everyone else wore breathable linen, you were draped in layers of symbolism, metal, and prestige. Imagine ruling a country in a full wedding outfit every day. Daily routine. All hail the schedule. Being divine doesn't mean sleeping in. Pharaoh's typical day: morning, ritual bath, dressing by attendants, offerings at temples, prayers to the sun god, reviewing scrolls with scribes, probably wishing you were still in bed. Midday, hearing petitions from officials discussing trade, war, or pyramid delays, accepting tributes and pretending to care. Evening, more temple visits, eating with nobles carefully, don't get poisoned. Consulting priests, stargazing with astronomers, trying to unwind, while 400 people chant your name, and if there's a royal ceremony, clear your schedule. You're expected to look immortal. 4 hours. Food fit for a god. Mostly, what did Pharaoh eat? Pretty much whatever they wanted, though whatever still meant Egyptian basics. Favorites included roasted duck and goose, honey cakes, dates, and figs, fresh fish, barley, beer, and gallons of wine, flavored with herbs or honey. But even Pharaoh wasn't immune to tooth decay. Bread was gritted from sand and stone ground flour. So while the golden goblets looked nice, your molars were probably crying. Also, ancient Egypt had no forks, just fingers, bread, and maybe a spoon. Even kings had to scoop gracefully. Your friends are priests, spies, and architects. Pharaoh didn't really have pals. Instead, you had viziers, your right-hand bureaucrats, scribes, the ones who wrote everything down, including your lunch priests, religious leaders who told you which god needed appeasing, guards who followed you everywhere, architects who begged for more workers and less sand, spies because palace gossip could get political if you trusted the wrong person. That could end badly. Rival factions, assassination plots, or just someone accidentally offending Raw by sneezing. Being Pharaoh was like babysitting 10,000 drama-prone co-workers. You'd better build a legacy and a pyramid as Pharaoh. It wasn't enough to rule. You had to build temples, build obelisks, build statues of yourself looking noble and weirdly muscular. And of course, your tomb, preferably a pyramid. The bigger, the better. Why? Because it showed power. It ensured your journey to the afterlife, and honestly, it was ancient Instagram clout. But pyramid building took decades, thousands of workers, and more stone than you could shake a scepter at. Some pharaohs died before theirs were finished. You'd be obsessing over limestone angles while pretending to rule calmly. Multitasking, ancient style. Don't blink in public. Pharaohs were always being watched. Everything you did was symbolic. If you blinked, people might say the gods were angry. If you coughed, someone would consult the priest of Sekhmet. Even your posture mattered. Sit too casually. You're weak. Frown too much. Bad omen. Laughed aloud. Not divine enough. Also, you were constantly surrounded by fan bearers, singers, flute players, and servants trying to time their footsteps with yours. It's exhausting being holy. And then there's the family drama. Oh, think modern royal families have issues. Pharaohs had dozens of children, multiple wives, orphaned from political alliances, powerful queens, some more beloved than the kings, sibling marriages, to keep the bloodline pure, and heirs constantly plotting or disappearing. Mysterious Lycians wasn't always smooth if you didn't name your heir clearly. Cue civil war, usurpation, or a few mysterious accidents. So yes, build that pyramid, but also watch your back at dinner. Still want the job. Being Pharaoh meant living like a god, ruling like a king, dying like a legend, and micromanaging like a stressed-out manager at a divine sandwich shop. But it also meant constant ceremonies, sky-high expectations, no privacy, and no room for err. On the bright side, you did get your face carved into every single wall. So that's nice. The man who built your house and got paid in beer. Closing parenthesis. So you've fallen down the social pyramid. All the way from Pharaoh to mud brick builder. No more golden sandals, no more fan bearers, just mud and maybe a donkey. But hey, don't panic. You're not enslaved. You're a worker, a laborer, a dusty, sunburnt, back-hurting builder of other people's homes, walls, and tombs. And even though the job's brutal, at least you're getting paid in something that matters. Beer. Let's look at your not-so-glamorous day, shall we? Start with the sun and the bugs. You wake up before dawn in a tiny house made of what else? Mud brick. It's hot. It's loud. Your back already hurts. You grab a quick breakfast of bread, onions, and maybe a date if you're lucky. Wash it down with morning beer, which sounds fun until you realize it's more like chunky barley porridge water. Delicious. Then it's off to the job site, tools in hand, sandals already filling with sand. What exactly are you building? If it's not a pyramid. Those were mostly state projects. You're probably building houses for nobles, scribes, or minor officials' storehouses to keep grain dry and rats unhappy, walls around villages or temples, tombs, smaller ones, not the fancy kind, ramparts and canals, because Egypt was constantly improving itself and everything is made of mud brick. Why? Because stone was expensive and reserved for temples and kings. Mud brick, on the other hand, was everywhere. Literally. How to make a mud brick. Step 1. Mud recipe for a high quality Egyptian mud brick. Get some Nile mud, mix with chopped straw or chaff, add strength, stomp it into shape, pour it into a wooden mold, let it bake in the sun for a few days, stack and repeat. And repeat. And repeat. Each brick weighs 20 to 30 pounds. You're expected to make or haul hundreds per day in 100 degrees Fahrenheit heat. While your foreman yells things like "Matt demands faster stacking," you smile, you nod. You dream of being a scribe. Your tools, simple, heavy and hot. You don't have much. A wooden trowel, a copper chisel, if you're lucky. Maybe a basket to carry bricks. No safety gear. No helmets, no gloves. Your back is your forklift. Your arms are your scaffolding. Sunburn, normal, smash toe. Happens. Brick wall collapses. Just fix it and try not to get blamed. The foreman, often literate and smug, walks around with a papyrus clipboard like he invented mud. He didn't, but he will definitely take credit when your wall holds. You're paid in food, beer, and not being fired wages. Technically, yes, but don't expect coins. You get paid in daily rations. Barley bread, onions, fish or lentils and, of course, beer. This wasn't a party beer. It was thick, nutritious, and had the consistency of soup with bubbles. Still, it did the job, gave you calories, numbed your aches. Probably made hauling bricks feel slightly less soul-crushing. Just don't spill it. That's basically your paycheck. You're not alone, but that's not always great. You work in a crew, sometimes 10, sometimes 100. Sometimes in silence, sometimes to the rhythm of chants or flute music played by boys who sit under palm trees and don't lift anything. You're a little jealous. You joke with your fellow workers. You grumble about management. You compare how many bricks you've dropped on your foot this week. And sometimes, when things go well, you sing. There's a kind of peaceful rhythm in mud, sweat, and teamwork. Just ignore the mosquitoes. Break time. Sure, but don't get lazy. Get a mid-morning break, and a longer one at midday, usually spent under a scrap of shade, eating lunch and hoping no scorpions join you. But don't take too long. If the foreman thinks you're slacking, he'll mark it down on his scroll. Too many marks, and you might get less rations or be replaced. Or, worse, assigned to night canal work, which is basically the mud version of being exiled. You try to look busy even when you're too tired to blink. Sometimes you strike, yes. Even in ancient Egypt. True story. In the 12th century BCE, workers at Deir el-Medina went on strike when their rations were delayed. They sat down, refused to work, complained politely, but firmly. And eventually, they got paid. You might not be one of them. They had government jobs and actual beds. But the idea is there. Even in ancient times, workers knew their worth, which is comforting. When your legs feel like boiled papyrus. At the end of the day, dusty, tired, tipsy, you go home caked in mud and sweat. You wash in a shared basin. Eat a little, sip your beer, rub your sore feet. Your kids jump on you. Your wife asks if the wall's done yet. You grunt something about mat and bricks and roll onto your straw mat, wondering how your spine is still attached. But somewhere in the distance, you hear the Nile flowing, frogs singing, neighbors laughing. It's not much, but it's enough. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. You weren't a pharaoh, you weren't in the history scrolls, but you were essential. You built Egypt, one brick, one wall, one home at a time. And while no one sang songs about you, they lived in what you made. Not bad, mudman, not bad. The Nile fisherman, scales, crocs, and swearing at reeds. So, you didn't make it as a pharaoh. You weren't cut out for pyramid hauling. Even mud brick building proved to brick. Why? That's fine. Today, you're something different. You're a Nile fisherman, which sounds romantic, like drifting on lotus-studded waters at sunrise, birds circling overhead, and silver fish leaping into your boat with joy. But in real life, it's soggy feet, suspicious splashes, stubborn nets, and yelling at crocodiles before breakfast. Let's cast our net into your daily routine, shall we? Wake up, grab your reed boat, you rise with the sun because fish don't like to sleep in. Your home is near the banks of the Nile. You live simply, a small clay house, a few tools, a fishing spear you inherited from your dad, and a boat you made out of bundled papyrus reeds. It's not fancy. It's not fast. It's basically a floating basket, but it floats. Usually. You push off into the cool morning water, pole in hand, basket in tow, prayers whispered to the river gods. Let the fish come today. Please. Your tools, handmade and hopeful. You've got a few weapons in your watery arsenal: fishing spear, a long wooden stick with prongs, accuracy not guaranteed, hook and line made from plant fiber, and a bent piece of bone. Very DIY. Throw net, cast from your boat with a dramatic flair, looks great when it works. Basket traps, left overnight in the reeds, hoping something swims in and forgets how to swim out. And most importantly, your balance, because standing in a reed canoe while aiming a sharpened stick at a moving target is harder than it looks. The fish you're after and the ones after you. The Nile is packed with fish, some delicious, some decorative, some deeply uncooperative. Tilapia, the bread and butter of Nile fishing, easy to catch, tasty, cooperative. Catfish, bottom dwellers with whiskers and attitude. Perch, slippery little nightmares. Tigerfish, sharp teeth, bad attitude. Not your first choice. And, of course, the crocodile, technically not a fish, but it definitely wants to be the one doing the catching. If you fall in, you don't worrying about drowning, you worrying about being eaten. Stay in the boat. Fishing is work, not a hobby. Forget lazy afternoons and picnic vibes. You're working, casting nets, spearing fish, pulling in traps, fighting reeds, fighting bugs, occasionally fighting geese. You sweat under the sun, your hands blister from rope, your clothes smell like river. You accidentally step on a catfish spine and swear creatively in ancient Egyptian. You shout at your nephew for falling asleep with the paddle again. He claims he was listening to the water. You don't buy it. You're paid in fish surprise. You're not a merchant, you're a supplier. You catch fish. You bring them back to town. You trade them at the market either for bread, beer, or linen, depending on the day. Some go to nobles, some to temples, some to hungry neighbors. If it's a good day, you bring back a basket full and get enough in return to feed your family and maybe fix that hole in your roof. If it's a bad day, you come back wet, empty-handed, and with several new mosquito bites, and maybe your cousin eats your dinner. There's always something in the water while fishing. You're not alone. You're joined by hippos, huge, grumpy, unpredictable, can flip your boat with a sneeze. Snakes, slithering between your legs in the reeds. Good luck. Other fishermen, Some are helpful, some are competitors, and some just splash around loudly and scare away the fish. Priests collecting holy water. They glare at you if you get too close. And birds, so many birds. They swoop in, steal your catch, and leave behind very unholy gifts. You wave your paddle at them. They laugh. You take breaks. Kinderthere's no lunch break bell, but you drift under the shade of a sycamore tree now and then. You snack on dates. Drink warm beer from a clay jar. Let your feet dangle in the water, while hoping no eels decide to investigate. You hum a fishing song. You swat a fly. You stare into the ripples and wonder if the Nile ever gets tired of people. Then you get back to work, because fish don't catch themselves. Usually. Sometimes the catch is too good to be true. Every once in a while, your net fills fast. To fast, you pull it in and realize you've got a sacred fish. Some fish in the Nile are considered divine, linked to gods like Osiris or Sobek. If you catch one of those, you quietly put it back before anyone sees you. Or, if you're bold, you sell it in the back alley of the market and pray no temple official ever finds out. Your cousin did that once. He now works in the desert, back on shore, smelling like victory, and fish by sunset. Your boat is creaking under the weight of your haul, or just creaking because it's old. You drag your baskets to shore, greet your kids, and wash off in a shared water trough. You've got fish guts in your hair and one sandal missing. Dinner tonight is grilled tilapia, onions, and beer. It's not glamorous, but it's yours. Why, it wasn't easy, but it worked. You didn't build temples, you didn't carve gods, but you fed people. You knew the river's moods, the wind's whispers, and the secret places where fish hid from the sun. You smelled terrible, but no one went hungry because of you, and sometimes that was enough. Don't get sick. Ancient Egyptian medicine and other terrifying ideas. So you've survived fishing, crocodiles, heat stroke, and your cousin's cooking, but now you've caught something. Maybe it's a fever, maybe it's a strange rash, maybe it's a mysterious swelling behind your ear that hums when you lie down. One thing is certain, you're sick. And in ancient Egypt, that's bad news, because Egyptian medicine is a mix of practical herbs, hopeful spells, and what if we rub honey on it? Let's gently unwrap the gauze and peek into the world of ancient healing. First things first, you visit the SWNW, pronounced Suno. These were Egypt's official doctors, trained, respected, kind of terrifying. They studied in houses of life, temple schools that taught medical texts, surgery gulp, and how to write headache in hieroglyphs 14 different ways. You tell the SWU your symptoms, they nod, write something on a scroll, and then shove a garlic clove up your nose. It's going great already. Medicine was 50% science, 50% spell work. Egyptian doctors believed illness could come from physical causes or spiritual ones. Maybe your stomach hurts because of bad meat, or maybe because an evil spirit slipped into your belly while you slept and built a tiny angry house there. Just in case, they treat both. They'll give you herbs for your digestion and chant a protective spell while waving a frog amulet over your face. 2 birds, 1 spell scroll. Common ailments. Ancient solution sluts say you have one of the following: a sore throat, gargle with honey, cumin, and powdered copper. A splinter, dig it out, rub on resin, bind with linen, and hope for the best. Toothache, pack it with crushed incense and pray to the gods of chewing. Stomach cramps, drink a mix of milk, dates, and ground goose fat. Yum. And if none of those work, it's probably demons. Or the gods are mad at you. Try apologizing. They knew more than you think. No, don't scarf. Ancient Egyptians were weirdly advanced for their time. They understood the pulse and how it related to the heart. They stitched up wounds with linen thread. They used castor oil as a laxative, very effective. They could reset broken bones surprisingly well. They knew honey kept wounds from getting infected. They even had medical textbooks with case studies, symptoms, and treatments. Sure, some of them involved lizard blood, but still progress a surgery. Let's not, did surgery exist? Yes. Did you want it? No. Unless you were extremely lucky or extremely desperate. There were tools, knives, hooks, probes, and terrifyingly named things like the flesh separator. But without anesthesia, most procedures were done with chanting, deep breathing, and firm friends holding you down. So yeah, that's a no from you. The pharmacist is a priest. Your medicine doesn't come in a box. It comes in a clay jar, from a temple priest, wrapped in linen, and smelling faintly of onions and sandalwood. He hands you a paste made from crushed beetles, sour beer, and date syrup. Rub this on your feet, he says. You blink. But my head hurts. He nods sagely. Exactly. You decide to try it anyway. What's the worst that could happen? You don't want to know. Mummies taught them a lot, and also made things weird. Egyptians learned a lot about anatomy from mummification. They saw real lungs, livers, hearts, and brains. They knew the structure of the body better than most ancient civilizations. Unfortunately, they also thought sneezing could be cured by inhaling burnt goose feathers. So it was a mixed bag. But hey, at least no one's prescribing leeches yet. That'll come later. You might also see a magical healer if the swung doesn't help. Your neighbor recommends Teti, a local Heka practitioner, half healer, half wizard. She doesn't read scrolls. She reads omens. She burns incense, draws circles in the sand, murmurs spells to ward off evil spirits, then hands you a necklace made of dried figs and crocodile teeth. It actually kind of helps, which is worrying, but you're not asking questions. There are no sick days. Sorry, unfortunately. Being sick doesn't mean you get to lie in bed. If you're a farmer, merchant, brickmaker, scribe, or fish seller, you work anyway. Maybe you wrap your aching leg in reeds. Maybe you cough into a linen rag. Maybe your friend helps carry your tools. But the fields won't plow themselves, and your boss doesn't accept evil spirits in my lungs as an excuse. Trust me. You've tried, and yet people lived long enough to complain despite all this. Many Egyptians lived into their 50s or 60s. Some made it to 70, a few to 80. They cared for each other. They had midwives, healers, bone setters, and herbalists. Mothers knew how to treat fevers. Grandparents had secret tea recipes. Everyone had an opinion about garlic. And somehow, across plagues, injuries, bad beer, and goat-related accidents, life went on. So, could you handle Egyptian medicine? Let's see. You've been poked with reeds, rubbed with frankincense, covered in honey, soon to by a guy wearing a crocodile mask, told to sleep facing north under a sycamore branch, and fed something that tasted suspiciously like fermented camel milk. And hey, your fever broke, or you're just too tired to notice it anymore. Either way, you're still alive. That counts as a win. The afterlife awaits, death, mummies, and why you'd still be tired. So, you've hauled bricks, baked in the sun, dodged hippos, battled mystery fevers, and eaten far too many onions. But now, you've died, probably in your 30s, maybe 40s, if you were lucky, or if you avoided crocodiles and spoiled lentils. But death in ancient Egypt, it's just the beginning, because now it's time to prepare for the afterlife, and let's just say, it's a bit of a process. First, let's get you mummified. Step 1. Remove your internal organs. Yes, all of them. The embalmers are very polite about it. But still, your stomach, intestines, lungs, liver, all going into separate jars, called canopic jars. Each guarded by a different protective god, with a fun animal head, your brain, that gets scooped out through your nose with a long metal hook. Don't worry, you won't miss it. Then your body is washed with wine, rubbed in oils and resin, stuffed with natron, basically fancy salt, left to dry for 40 days, then wrapped in hundreds of feet of linen. You are now a proper mummy, smelling faintly of cinnamon and death. Funeral time. Bring the band. Your funeral isn't sad. It's a procession. There's a music, mourning women wailing dramatically, priests reading from the Book of the Dead, and maybe a cousin trying to steal your sandals. You're carried on a boat or cart through the streets. Your family follows behind, tossing flowers, burning incense, and trying not to look to relieve. Everyone hopes you were a good person, because otherwise your afterlife's about to get weird. You arrive at the Hall of the Truth. This is where your heart gets weighed. Not metaphorically. Literally. The gods pluck your preserved heart from your chest and place it on a golden scale. On the other side, a feather. The feather of math, truth, balance, justice. If your heart is heavier, aka full of guilt, lies, bad vibes, it's eaten by Amit. Amit is part lion, part crocodile, part hippo. Basically, the ultimate animal. If your heart is lighter, you pass. You get to enter the field of reeds, a kind of eternal, sunny farmland with perfect weather and unlimited bread. But wait, there's a lot of paperwork to even get to the Hall of Truths. You need to recite the negative confession. It's a list of 42 things you didn't do. Things like, I did not steal bread. I did not speak lies. I did not kill sacred geese. I did not weep loudly during awkward dinners. Okay, maybe not that one. You need to memorize all of them. Say them with confidence, no stuttering. And yes, the gods are taking notes. Your tomb is your house forever. Your physical body gets buried in a tomb. If you are rich, it's a beautiful chamber filled with art, food offerings, little wooden boats, makeup, combs, and fun-sized statues called a shabtis to do chores for you in the afterlife. If you were poor, you still get wrapped up and laid to rest in a simple grave, maybe with a pot of beer and some dried dates. Either way, your family visits sometimes. Brings bread, lights a candle, says your name, because remembering someone's name keeps their soul alive. Yes, your soul is complicated. Egyptian souls aren't just one thing. You've got Ka, your life force. It needs food. That's why people leave offerings. Ba, your personality. It has a bird body and flies around at night. Ok, your immortal self that hopefully merges with the stars. You also have a shadow and a name, and those are important too. Basically, you're a 6-part puzzle that must be carefully managed for eternity. Hope you left instructions. You get to keep doing stuff. Forever. Field of Reeds isn't just a paradise. It's, well, work. But it's nice work. Farming fields that never flood too much. Baking bread that never burns. Chatting with old friends and gods. Maybe even watching the stars with your bobbird self. It's peaceful, but eternal. Like retirement, with slightly more cow-based labor. Unless something goes wrong, of course. Things can go sideways. If your body decays. Your soul might get lost. If your tomb is robbed. You could get stuck wandering. If nobody says your name anymore. You could just vanish. That's why Egyptians were obsessed with tombs, rituals, statues, and carvings. It was all about being remembered, because memory, to them, was immortality. So, Could you handle dying in ancient Egypt? Let's check. Your organs are in jars. Your heart passed the feather test. Your soul's floating around like a glow in the dark parakeet. You're farming wheat in the afterlife while chatting with Osiris. And honestly, you're kind of peaceful. No taxes, no sunburn, no sand in your shoes. Just eternal calm, bird song, and possibly a ghost cat or two. Final thoughts. Traveler ancient Egypt was brutal, beautiful, hot, hard, divine, confusing. It was full of gods and dust, pyramids and peasants, fish guts and poetry. And, somehow, through it all, people laughed, loved, lived, left their marks. And now, so have you. You didn't just survive a day in ancient Egypt, you survived all of it: birth, life, work, sickness, and death. And still, you dream beneath the stars, wrapped in linen, cradled in memory.